This week, on a special stuck-at-home edition of Talking Pictures with Neil Rosen, we'll look at a new film adaptation of the classic Jane Austen novel Emma, and we'll check out the new action horror thriller The Hunt, plus the British mystery series The Stranger and two crime drama series, 000 and The Outsider, based on a novel by Stephen King. We also have a whole bunch of classic films for you to watch. We've got all that and many more movie picks coming up. I'm Neil Rosen, and welcome to Talking Pictures. It's our monthly Critic Roundtable show where we debate what's worth watching and what's not when it comes to new releases, hidden gems, and Hollywood classics. We know the movie theaters are closed, and because of the pandemic, you're probably stuck at home and craving some entertainment at home. So along with my panel, we're all streaming from home. We're social distancing. We have plenty of movies and TV series for you to binge watch. And joining me are Bill McCuddy from Gold Derby. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Neil. This is day 12 for these pajamas. Thank you.
Lisa Rosman from Signs and Sirens. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Neil. Thank you for a reason to take a shower and wear lipstick.
I'm glad there's some good that comes out of this. And Mike Sargent. Hi, Mike from WBAI.
Thank you for allowing me to take a shower and wear some lipstick. Thank you.
Well, let's start out with a look at several new films that are available on demand or streaming. And we'll start with a new adaptation of the Jane Austen novel, Emma. Let's take a look at a clip.
Mrs. Martin thinks you the most handsome woman in all of Highbury.
You must never flatter me in front of Mr. Knightley, Harriet. He thinks me vain enough already.
I do not think you personally vain. Considering how very handsome you are, you seem little occupied with it. Your vanity lies a different way.
Bill, tell us all about Emma.
Well, just when you thought we didn't need another adaptation of this, we kind of do. This one is a fresh update. It has a bright look to it. It's not lit by candles like some of the ones have been in the past. And the real star here is Anya Taylor-Joy. You remember her from Thoroughbreds or The Witch or Peaky Blinders, all of which are available on demand and all good rentals in themselves. We know the story very well. She's a matchmaker, but she really enlivens it here. She's helped with the supporting cast that includes Johnny Flynn from Lovesick. Also, Bill Nighy as her dad, who I felt was kind of wasted. He's a favorite of mine, but he isn't given a lot to do here. It runs 2 hours and 5 minutes long, which normally we would say is too long, but these days it's great. So we're actually happy to have long versions of films. Ironically, you'll find it on your cable system under In Theaters Now, but it's not in theaters, it's only at home.
Lisa.
Well, I'm of the opinion that there is no such thing as too many Jane Austen adaptations, as long as, especially while they're still making Liam Neeson Saves the World movies over and over. And this is actually one of my favorite Austen novels, and I think they do an excellent job here. Emma, in general, spearheads the myth, I think, of the charitably wealthy, and Taylor-Joy does such a good job of capturing that kind of clueless condescension with this really wonderful, wide-eyed wit. And, you know, I think that Emma's dad is not a big role, and I appreciate that they didn't overwrite it, but Bill Nighy is always hilarious.
I think Bill Nighy is great comic relief. I like Anya Taylor-Joy in this as well. I agree with you, Lisa, but I don't see why we need another version of this. I like the Gwyneth Paltrow version that was done in 1996, directed and the screenplay by Douglas McGrath. If you really want to see a great, different take on this Jane Austen novel, Emma, take a look at the Alicia Silverstone movie, Clueless. That's a tremendous update, and that at least puts a different spin on it. But for what this is, I do enjoy it. I think it's good. I just don't see the reason for it. Well, as you've noticed, we're not on our regular set, and we're trying different things. So for the next movie, we're going to do this Brady Bunch style, and, write us, and for the next episode, maybe you like this better. We're just checking out different things and experimenting. So having said that, Mike, give us a movie that you like that you want to recommend.
Well, I have to say I'm going to recommend the new version of Most Dangerous Game. It's called The Hunt. It stars Betty Gilpin and Hilary Swank. And basically it's the same story where people wake up, they're more or less poor people who find out they're being hunted by the rich. I really like this movie because it skewers the right, skewers the left, social media, people who are full of themselves, and I really thought Betty Gilpin, I thought she was great.
I'm going to jump in here, Neil. I love this movie. I had zero expectations for it going in, but I know that it's been maligned. It was moved around for some political reasons. And then both the left and the right came out and said, no, it's about them. No, it's about them. Well, it doesn't matter, because to me, it takes on, as he alluded to, social media, and the whole idea of what you say online really does come back to haunt you. This is an incredibly big surprise for me, and it was just in theaters. Because of the pandemic, it's now available at home.
I don't know what movie you guys watched. This was awful, but go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the big surprise is how overrated it is. I think the drama around the film was way better than the drama within the film, which is, I know you think I'm wrong, which only makes me more right. I mean, honestly, the drama around this film was actually kind of interesting, but the truth is that the film itself is not smart enough to make the impact that everyone was afraid that it would. I mean, this is a B movie, not grade B, just an old school schlocky B movie that comes with a lot of bombast around it that isn't merited.
To say that I didn't like this movie is an understatement. I detested this movie. I was so offended by this entire thing. The characters, both on the left and on the right, were gross stereotypes. And yes, very nice sign, Bill. And, the whole thing was like a cartoon. First of all, the Betty Gilpin character, and I like Betty Gilpin, but in this she was like Rambo. And there's a fight scene between
Which actually was cool. I just want to say that was cool.
She was great.
There was a fight scene in the kitchen between Betty Gilpin and Hilary Swank that was a complete ripoff of the fight scene between
homage, Neil, homage
in Kill Bill.
Tomato.
Listen, all I have to say is this: is, as you said, or one of you alluded to, I think it was Bill, that it was pulled from theaters for political reasons because there were mass shootings. It should have been pulled for theaters not only for that, because it was just a horrible, boring film. I do not recommend this film. Avoid it.
I agree.
Don't miss it.
Neil is wrong.
Lisa, Les Miserables is not the Victor Hugo version, but there's a new one out there. Tell us about it.
It's true. It's not. This is a French language film. It'll be streaming on Amazon Prime starting April 10th. You're right. It may share a title with the Victor Hugo novel, but that's about it. It's a different animal entirely. And spoiler alert, it is also not a musical. It is set in a rough neighborhood in Paris today. And it's got this really well choreographed cast, and it's filmed really beautifully. It's a crime drama that looks at police corruption, immigration dynamics, organized crime, and the disenchanted youth who get caught in the middle of it. Suffice it to say that there is a drone that plays a central part. And for me, at least, and I know everyone doesn't agree with me about this, but the film is as gripping in the slow, quote unquote, lighter moments as it is when the drama whips up to a frenzy.
Mike?
I'm going to say, don't listen to anything Bill says. This is a great film. And it's really surprisingly good. It's one of the best films of last year.
Bill?
Well, the French thought so too. They made it their Oscar nomination, submitted it, and it was nominated. I just think it's overrated. To me, it's like a long Law and Order episode in French, and there's no one to like for. Can't recommend it.
I forgot to make a sign that says Bill is overrated. I forgot.
All right, let's move on. Mike, on a completely different type of movie, Vivarium. Tell us about that.
Well, I'll tell you about Vivarium in brief. Vivarium is about a young couple played by Jesse Eisenberg and Imogen Poots, who wander into a real estate office to look at some homes that look all exactly the same. A really weird real estate agent says, "Oh, I'll bring you out." He's really weird. They get out there, next thing you know, they're trapped. They can't get out of this place, and they have a baby delivered, and it says, "Raise this child and you can escape." It's essentially a giant Twilight Zone episode, not as good as some of the best Twilight Zone episodes, but it's compelling enough to keep your attention. I will say Jesse Eisenberg, once again, plays Jesse Eisenberg. But I think Imogen Poots, I think, did a really good job.
Lisa?
Okay, the thing is, this movie, that sort of weird, eerie, quirky thing, like, dudes like Charlie Kaufman do a lot better. And I gotta say that, yeah, watching Jesse Eisenberg while quarantined feels like unnecessary torture. I mean, this guy he does not have much range, I think is the most charitable way to phrase it.
Okay, I did not care for Vivarium. I felt like the couple that are trapped in that neighborhood. I felt like I was trapped in this movie. It's like a bad Twilight Zone episode, and there are not many bad Twilight episodes. It's way too long. It should have been a half an hour. Actually, correct that. It shouldn't have been at all. Well, there's some great TV series that are streaming right now to binge watch that do take up a lot of time and will entertain you in the process. And we're going to tell you about a few, starting with The Outsider.
I love this show. And honestly, the last thing I thought I was going to do was recommend a supernatural crime procedural, because what a weird genre. But this, which by the way streams on HBO, is just so ridiculously smart, strong, and compelling. It's adapted from a Stephen King novel by showrunner Richard Price, who's a crime writer that you may know from such movies as Clockers and Hello, the TV show The Wire. And honestly, he's pretty much the last person I thought would tackle a supernatural topic, which is why I trusted it. Think of it as contemporary noir, and it's focusing on a series of Southern murders that seem like they're not connected, but they are through a very improbable set of circumstances. The cast here is key. We're talking about Cynthia Erivo, Ben Mendelsohn, who, as far as I'm concerned, can do no wrong.
I love Ben Mendelsohn.
Love. Mare Winningham, Patty Considine. I mean, and the theme here is of human trauma and lurking evil that, that you can't explain, but still controls us. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, that's a theme that feels super, super relevant right now.
Mike?
Well, I think you're right. And I think everybody there, Stephen King pretty much has it's the Stephen King universe. He's written so much and has so many things made. Richard Price, you can't get better crime procedurals or crime dramas than you can from Richard Price. And the cast is fantastic. That's what makes it. So just on paper alone, seeing the people involved, you would have to watch the show.
All right, Bill, give me a show that we could all binge watch that you like.
Well, this one should be called Waiting for Gomorrah, one of my other favorite shows that has 2 more seasons that'll drop soon but haven't yet. It's called 000, and it's from some of the Gomorrah people. It's basically 2000 Soderbergh's Traffic updated to a current kind of 8-part series. And what I like about it is it has 3 international stories going on at the same time. The buyer of drugs, the seller of drugs, and then the shippers of the drugs. And the shipping family is played by Gabriel Byrne, Dane DeHaan, and Andrea Riseborough, who is so amazing in this. She's been in The Death of Stalin and is a regular in Black Mirror. Basically, we get to go to Mexico, Italy, Casablanca. It has a big budget. It'll suck you in from the very first hour, and everyone who's seen this is telling me they loved it, and those that haven't have called to say, you got to see this thing. So 000 on Amazon Prime is my highest recommendation.
But I tell you, Bill, you recommended something to me about a week ago, and I was completely addicted to this thing called The Stranger, which is a British mystery thriller series on Netflix. That it had me right from the start. Literally 10 minutes in, I was hooked. A husband with a seemingly perfect marriage and 2 great sons gets approached by a woman in her 20s. She's a complete stranger.
Think of me as a stranger that knows.
Who tells him these devastating secrets. Your wife wasn't really pregnant last time before her supposed miscarriage. You should get a DNA test because your kids might not really be yours. And this woman goes up to many other people with different secrets and totally messes up their lives too. All the stories eventually become interconnected. It's fascinating and absorbing. It's got a great cast, including Stephen Ray, who you probably remember from The Crying Game. And the ending isn't as satisfying as it should be, but that doesn't matter because it's an addictive, binge-worthy 8 one-hour episode miniseries that's really exciting and suspenseful. And Lisa, I see you nodding your head. You love it.
I gotta say, Neil, those Brits really know how to do a crime procedural, man. I mean, this is so smart and layered and contained and observant. And I mean, I've been thinking about how we've all picked so many crime topics today, and I really think that watching things get solved satisfies an itch for us right now. So I really recommend this film, and I've been thinking, I think crime procedurals are where it's at, people.
Well, you binge watched the whole thing last night, which
honestly, I watched it. What is it? It's an 8-episode thing. I think I watched it in 8 hours straight. It's awesome.
Bill?
No, I think it is engrossing. In the middle of it, it kind of becomes a Scooby-Doo adventure with the kids involved, but it pulls itself together at the end, and it's got a lot of things to tie up, I will say that. But when are we going to admit that anything with a British patina is almost better than anything we can make?
And Mike, you're very big on the new Twilight Zone, which is on CBS All Access, which is hosted and created by Jordan Peele.
Well, I was a little late to it, and I only got to see it recently, but I really liked it. And I had wondered why. I like everything that he's been doing, But I was wondering, why did he want to remake The Twilight Zone? We have Black Mirror, we have all these TV shows, but when you see this new Twilight Zone, you realize this Twilight Zone is a very specific thing. It tells very specific kinds of stories, and what he's done here is made it more socially relevant than ever. The cast is always multicultural. There are stories that take place in Alaska and dealing with Eskimos. There are stories where Asians are the main character, and it's not an issue that they're Asian. I really like this because it reminded me of why I like The Twilight Zone. Not every episode is stellar, but they're all very, very, very watchable.
I'm a big fan of the original Twilight Zone with Rod Serling, and this is acceptable, but this is no Rod Serling Twilight Zone. There is no episode in this new series that is equivalent to, let's say, To Serve Man or Willoughby or dozens of other Twilight Zone episodes that I just really cherish. Jordan Peele is fine, you know. Again, he's no Rod Serling either. If you really want to see something on par with Twilight Zone, or as close as you're going to get, as you mentioned Black Mirror a moment ago, Mike, that is as close as you're going to get to the Twilight Zone. There are episodes in that are just genius. That's a great series. So I say instead of the new Twilight Zone, which is on CBS All Access, which is okay, I'd go to Netflix and watch Black Mirror. Lisa?
I really wanted to like this, but I'm not sure that adaptations are Jordan Peele's strong suit. I mean, he is, I think, almost the undeniable king right now of original material, really smart horror. And I don't know if he's the right guy to confine himself to someone else's narrative structure and ideas, no matter how much he admires it. Every one of these episodes fell short, which was so surprising to me at first, because I do think Jordan Peele's horror films are some of the best things that have been made in the last 5 years.
And Neil, we would be remiss if we didn't point out that you can probably see on either the Sci-Fi Channel or something called Antenna or Me TV on lots of cable systems, the original Twilight Zone. So just seek it out.
Yeah, that's true. Well, here's something I came late to the party. Mike said he was late to the party on the new Twilight Zone. When back in 2017, when Glow came out on Netflix, my wife and I watched the first 2 episodes, and we said, you know, not really so good. And then somebody recommended, they said, no, it gets better, and go back in. And since we're all in this pandemic with lots of stuff to watch, we went back in, and I became addicted to this thing. Glow, which stands for Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, is about a group of out-of-work actresses in the 1980s who wind up getting employed by a startup, low-budget wrestling TV show. And these women who know nothing about wrestling are given wild characters to create, and they're trained and taught wrestling choreography. And along the way, we get to know each of their personal stories as the women forge strong friendships, and those stories are really good. Betty Gilpin from The Hunt is in it, and Alison Brie is, I guess, really the star of the show, and Gina Davis comes on for the 3rd season, and Mark Maron steals every scene he's in as the sort of director-manager of this whole wrestling group. I highly recommend this. There's 3 seasons with a 4th season coming your way very soon. Lisa?
Well, you know, I love this series, and I'm excited that there's going to be another one at some point. It's so feminist, it's so fun, it's very tender-hearted bubblegum, which is really not unlike the 80s themselves, except with better sexual and racial politics.
And Bill, I know you've only seen the first 2 episodes and stopped like I did. Go back in and watch it. I'm telling you, it gets infinitely better.
Neil, it's not real. It's not real.
It's based on a real story.
Yeah,
it was a real Glow.
I'm talking about professional wrestling. Listen, it didn't grab me. I've got a lot of time now. Maybe I will revisit it.
There was a new movie that went straight to Netflix a few months ago called The Fall from Grace. Not a very good film on any level, but I talked to its writer and director, Tyler Perry, and one of the stars of that movie, Felicia Rashad, about streaming, and here's what they had to say.
How do you feel about the movie not playing on a big screen? And do you also agree that maybe it would play better on a big screen than on the small screen, home screen?
Well, I've done several thousands of hours of television on a small screen and get pretty good reaction. So I love the idea of seeing the audience having immediate reaction together, having that camaraderie. But if that doesn't happen, I also love the idea of people being able to turn it on at home and watching it as many times as they want. So it's a give and take on both sides. But I love working with Netflix.
This seems to be where the world is going, where cinema is going to streaming and the like. I didn't have a problem watching it alone. I think I received so much from the film. I think I received the film as it was intended, as it was given.
Well, if you like classic films, there really are some great ones out there to watch. Lisa, give me a classic film and tell everyone where they can watch it.
Oh my gosh, let's talk about The Conversation, which is on Amazon Prime right now. Oh, it was made in 1974 by Francis Ford Coppola. Hello, between him making Godfather 1 and Godfather 2. Hello, it stars the great Gene Hackman as a surveillance expert who believes he hears an intimation of murder on a conversation he tape records. This, in my opinion, is one of the great films of the 1970s, though it was actually underappreciated at the time of its release. I think maybe because it was a little less charismatic than some of the other films, but it's so keenly observed and photographed. And the whole concept of personal responsibility and a sense of futility in the shadow of deep state and looming institutions. Once again, I can't help but say I keep on picking films that are relevant to right now.
Look at these movies that Francis Coppola made in the 70s, in addition to Godfather 1 and Godfather 2, and this phenomenal movie, The Conversation. He also did Apocalypse Now, and then that was it. What happened to Francis Ford Coppola after the 1970s? Because the movies just were not even in the same league. But The Conversation, as you said, such a great film. John Cazale's in it. A young Harrison Ford shows up for a few minutes in the movie, too. Yeah, I highly recommend that movie. Mike?
Well, I have to say I agree. I think The Conversation is a great, great film. And if you haven't seen it, please see it. And since you have time, I would watch that as a double feature with Enemy of the State. Because that's a movie, it's not as good. It's a Tony Scott film. It's a Will Smith star. It's a political thriller. But Gene Hackman plays a role that is clearly an homage to his character in The Conversation. And it will just make you smile. Because throughout the whole film, you're thinking, okay, The Conversation. So I recommend the film quite a bit.
Bill, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, well, those Scott brothers know how to make watchable, popcorn-chomping movies, and Enemy of the State is a good example. Not great, but really, really good. And I'm glad to have Mike bring that one up. I will not hold up the Mike is wrong card on that one.
I also want to mention that if people are interested in classic films, this is a really, really great time to do a deep dive into the back catalog of movies, since what else are you going to do? And I have to say, most major streaming sites have pretty lousy back catalogs, especially if you want to go before the 80s, which is why I'm recommending maybe getting the Criterion channel. It's very reasonably priced, and it's an independent streaming site that features so much independent and foreign and classic film that you can't get anywhere else. Just this month, there's movies with Rita Hayworth, films directed by Bogdanovich, Eric Romer, Allison Anders, Agnes Varda, Terry Zwigoff. I say it, get Criterion channel, and I don't even think any of you boys do, so get on it, boys.
Somebody that's doing sort of the same thing with old-time programming is Turner Classic Movies. In late night, they have a thing called the Underground. And what they're doing is they're highlighting at, like, say, 2 in the morning Eastern Standard Time until like 6 in the morning, let's say the French New Wave or like 60s British films, or sometimes just drive-in movies. The other night they had a double feature between Across 110th Street, which was one of the first blaxploitation films, and Superfly, the Ron O'Neal, Curtis Mayfield track. You know, not a great expensive movie, kind of cheap, down and dirty, but effective and good, and people still remember the songs from that film almost as much as they do Shaft and Isaac Hayes. So they're doing cool things. Turner Classic Movies Underground, and I've been DVRing some of those great old movies.
Mike, you're shaking your head when Bill said Superfly.
Because I have to sigh, because, you know, and I'm going to do like my Clarence Williams III. Listen, Bill, okay, first of all, you know, blaxploitation, I hate the term, it is what it is, and this is the beginning of it. Blaxploitation was they realized there was money to be made on black audiences, showing them, quote unquote, kicking ass. So it's got drugs, it's got sex, it's got violence, but he's a pimp. I'm sorry, a movie about a pimp who's the hero of the film, I can't say what I want to say in terms of words. The only good thing about that whole era is that it allowed a lot of great actors who weren't getting work to work. But other than that, I'm sorry. Superfly, there's no need to make it then. There's no need to make the remake. I disagree. Sorry.
Hey, so very quickly, you know, what do you like better, the Shaft soundtrack or the Superfly soundtrack? I don't think there's a contest. I think it's the Superfly soundtrack. Just music now. Not contest.
That's the best thing about the film is Curtis Mayfield's score.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. Curtis Mayfield.
Absolutely best.
Curtis Mayfield was the bomb, always and forever. Always.
Well, I love it too, and used to listen to it all the time. But I have to tell you, we can't ignore the fact that Isaac Hayes got an Oscar for the Shaft soundtrack,
Yes,
which
he did.
in 1972 was a pretty big deal.
The Shaft soundtrack had one good song, Shaft. The Superfly soundtrack had tons of good songs. And, you know, I did the Shaft junket like last year, and I actually asked the original Shaft, Richard Roundtree, who was sitting alongside Jesse T. Usher and Samuel L. Jackson, the answer to that question, and listen to how he reacted to that question.
Your own personal opinion. What's the better soundtrack, Shaft or Superfly?
Oh,
movie soundtrack.
Did you actually ask that question?
I actually did.
Who is he?
All right, we'll skip that.
He's not a music critic.
Well, that question went over well with them. The classic movie that I want to recommend is from 2002, and it's The Magdalene Sisters. And it was my favorite movie of the year that year. It's a true story based on the Magdalene laundries in Ireland, where so-called fallen women were in prison for getting pregnant out of wedlock, or even, get this, for being flirty, operated by the Catholic Church. It's about 4 girls who are sent there, the horrific treatment that they endure, and then by the end, the movie turns into something like The Great Escape as they try to bust out of this place. It's directed by Peter Mullen. It's a fascinating history lesson about a sad chapter in Ireland's history, and a watered-down mainstream version of the same topic can be found in a Judi Dench, Steve Coogan movie called Philomena. But I have to tell you, Magdalene Sisters is such an eye-opening, fascinating movie. Lisa, you just keep nodding like you want me to go to you. Go ahead, chime in.
Well, I'm proud of you for picking this film, honestly. Like, we haven't featured that much female-oriented content, and neither have I, actually. But
Did you hear the glow segment earlier?
Yeah, I'm saying much, my friend. We're still talking about 2 women things in a sea of men. But I would say this movie, one of the reasons it works so beautifully is that it's a very weighty topic, but it's a light touch. So if you're afraid to watch it because you think like it's going to be something that's going to depress you even more, the truth is that the movie has a lot of nuance and even some wit.
Well, that's about all the time we have. With any luck, we've given you some movies and TV shows to watch to help pass the time in this time of crisis. I want to thank Lisa Rosman, Bill McCuddy, and Mike Sargent. Be healthy, stay well. I'm Neil Rosen. Join us next time on Talking Pictures.